Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I hear some vacuuming in the background.
I thought it was the lunch whistle. I thought this was the Flintstones.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not at your house, is it, Mike?
No. If it was me, if it was my house, I would be the one doing it, and I'm here. So, we are. It's the Friday before July 4th. So, Russ and I have a lot to look forward to in terms of baseball, since it's Yankees Mets Subway Series. Although both teams are playing like crap, at least you got a good outing out of DeGrom yesterday, Russ.
Yeah.
Start us off with the pre-show.
All right, so let's talk about the NCAA likeness case that they finally lost. So now they're finally going to let players get active sponsorships from businesses, and it started to happen. Some of the big quarterbacks got them the other day, but I don't know why my brain goes to this. Kevin's going to yell at me for this, but my brain instantly goes to, the NCAA still has a chance to foul up a lot of these sponsorships by saying this company doesn't meet our standards, or this company isn't in the image of what the NCAA is. And let's say it's, it could be a brothel, it could be a strip club, it could be an alcohol, a tobacco, it could be a vaping company. And so I kind of wonder about that, Kev.
I'm in favor. I really am in favor of college players being able to. Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very bullish about it because honestly, they really have been taken advantage of through the years. Now, It's not like they're not getting anything. I mean, people don't seem to want to take into account that you're getting a full ride scholarship, which is worth a lot of money, especially if you're a parent that ever had to put kids through. But it's still, that's a multi-million-dollar industry. Like, to the football programs at all the major universities, play such an incredible role in the financial and the prestige of the universities, and really the players who carry the program should get some reward for that. So I'm not going to yell at you, because I wouldn't put it past the NCAA. They really have been archaic.
They have been
in their approach for so many years. I mean, it's almost as if they don't want to admit that it's college sports is not Harvard versus Yale with people wearing their coonskin coats and waving their flags on the side.
100,000 seat stadiums. Yeah, with a lot of merchandise being sold.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no protection.
And the video game companies got away with forever. That's why Reggie Bush had sued that time at that point. Well, and, he never won anything, and now it's happening, and you feel bad for Reggie Bush in a way.
Well, yeah, but I guess he's applied for reinstatement of his Heisman Trophy.
Yes, because they took that away because he got a sponsorship, and Johnny Manziel had gotten that autograph deal that time. Yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves for that stuff.
Well, and this,
I mean, it's just a travesty that if you're a quarterback for a prestigious school, let's just say, Florida or Alabama or Ohio State, and you cut a deal to sign 10 autographs on football helmets for a guy, like, you could lose everything.
Right.
Like, that's insane. Just absolutely insane.
Well, I didn't follow the legal sort of tree of this, but this all started with the Ed O'Bannon situation with UCLA, where I guess he was, his likeness was being used on video games by EA Sports, and he was getting no recompense for it. And now, Russ, what I heard yesterday is they cannot use. They cannot do anything regarding like marijuana or alcohol or anything of that, anything that's any kind of gambling sites, but they can do some sort of advertisement for local, like say for example, auto dealerships or things of that nature. So there is some limit.
There are limitations.
Yes,
but I do wonder again. There could be a company that you and I don't find offensive that they're going to say doesn't meet their standards. But we'll tell you this to go along with the travesty part, what Kevin's talking about. Back in the day, and Kevin will remember this because he's a little older than me, when Tom Seaver was playing at USC, he became ineligible because he played in the Alaskan League and they gave out money for meal money. And when the NCAA found out about that, then Tom Seaver was ineligible to go back to college, and that's why they had a lottery for him in Major League Baseball. And the Mets probably wouldn't have ever had a chance at Tom Seaver if it wasn't for that lottery. But that's how ridiculous it was going back to even the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, two things. One, recompense, by the way, Mike, is one of my favorite words. I love that word. It's a great word. And two, I don't know if you guys watch Real Sports on HBO.
I do at times.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. It's a terrific show. And this past week, they had a story on a former Phillies pitcher. I can't think of his name now. It's not coming to me. Who has started a business where they have analytics people and they predict the potential success rates of minor league baseball players. And then they go to them and offer them a cash payout for a percentage of their major league salaries. And apparently they're very good at projecting because they get these guys very early, when they're rookie league and Class A and stuff. And here's the issue with it. And I struggle with it. I really do about whether there's an ethics issue here or are they providing a service that Major League Baseball should be providing. So what ends up happening is with the let's use Tatis as an example. He's one of their guys. He's one of their guys. And when he was young, they gave him $350,000, and they now get 10% of all of his major league salary.
Right.
That he earns.
His name is Michael Schwimmer. I never heard of him, but
Anyway, he did pitch. Anyway, they've done an incredible job of predicting just based on analytics who's going to do it. They have 60 major leaguers, and Mercedes they have on the White Sox. He got 165,000. And here's the issue, which I think everybody's kind of huddled around, but nobody wants to get too overboard about it because minor league baseballs are so poorly paid, minor league baseball players, that 5 or 6 of them usually live in an apartment. Yeah. And, they earn what would be the equivalent of like $2 an hour.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, and they readily admitted that a lot of the prospects that they end up signing are from Latin American countries. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are poor families, and that money is very important to those guys. That pulls their families out.
How does what they do set them up for success that others don't? I guess, or just not doing them.
Well, what it does is it allows them to help their families immediately, and all of them. I'm sure it helps them live too. But the reward is so great for those companies. I mean, it seems like the payment isn't commensurate, but I know that the way they've set it up is all based on analytics, and it's what they've got to do in order to.
Well, so they're like the money store, like when Phil Rizzuto used to do the money store, but for baseball players.
Well, yeah. Honestly, it sounds like to me, me in 1984 or 1985 stocking up on every rookie baseball card, buying like 10 of every rookie baseball card, hoping that 1 or 2 of them become Don Mattingly, like I had Don Mattingly.
Yeah, well, it's a little different. Their success rate is really high. Like like they're not giving $350,000
to anybody.
For anybody. Like they're giving it to just a couple of guys,
right?
On each team, or whatever. But I mean, it's not just the guys.
It's not against the law. I mean, it's not.
Oh no, and there's and the guys, like I said, Mercedes said he'd do it again.
Yeah.
Even though he's going to lose on this deal, but at the time the 165,000 was important.
Was what he needed.
And here's my thought on it. This is where I've sort of come around on it. You know what? If Major League Baseball paid players a fair wage, like 365,000, let's just say 165. So if they paid Mercedes $45,000 a year or $40,000 a year, he'd get that in 4 years, and he would be able to help his family.
Right.
So they've opened the door for this to happen by not paying them well.
Yeah, that's the next bastion. And unfortunately, baseball doesn't care. And they actually made it more financially beneficial for them instead of helping the players. They claim they're helping the players now because when they cut all those jobs, they are paying more, but there's also now less opportunity. So they really have fouled that up. And when we wrote the book Strike Three, that was like the second book I wrote that dealt with that subject, because I know a player, that Nico Riesco, who we do a podcast with, who was saying, yeah, if you're not a bonus baby, you really struggle for money, and that's why a lot of them go play in Mexico. He played in Mexico. It really is a shame. But look, I applaud this guy, because why not?
Maybe the Chicago White Sox should have consulted with this guy before they traded Tatis Jr. for James Shields a few years ago, because that could be one of the worst trades in baseball history.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's right. Well, I mean, his business has expanded to other areas. Like I think I read that he's involved in casinos and gambling sites and those kind of things, because apparently his analytics crew is just outstanding.
Well, if he's listening and he wants to do anything hockey-wise, wants to know about prospects, call me.
Yeah, and maybe he can help the Yankees analytics crew. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, July 2nd, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen, and Mike, never forget, Brian Cashman said the Yankees suck right now. Let's all remember that.
You're never going to let him forget that. And I'm Kevin Allen. I'm Kevin Allen of Hockey Buzz.
Right now, Russ. Right now. And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, let's start. We'll get to Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final near the end of the show. As Tampa Bay is leading the series 2-0, heading to the Bell Center tonight. First game in Montreal since first game in Stanley Cup Finals in Montreal since 1993, and the first game in Montreal in the Stanley Cup Final, not in the Montreal Forum. This is the first one for the Bell Center, which is interesting. Kevin, I wanted to get your thoughts on the deal that was made yesterday. It broke right about the time that we were doing the show, and Russ gave his point of view on it. But I want to get your input on the Victor Arvidsson deal to Los Angeles for a second and a third round pick, a second in 2021, a third in 2022. No salary retention in this one, and he's got 3 years left at $4.25 million. And I can tell you that Ryan Johansson and Philip Forsberg, both on social media, gave a thumbs down to the deal, obviously because this guy was a teammate and somebody valued by that franchise. What did you think of the deal?
Well, I think it's multi-layered. I think you have to look at it from a bunch of different perspectives. The Predators GM David Poile, I'm sure, is feeling some heat to make over this team. He has two players, one of whom just made a thumbs down in that trade, Ryan Johansson, who aren't living up to the value of their contracts.
Right.
And because of that, he's put in a bad position of having to find cap space elsewhere. And when he looked around, I think he saw a player who has had trouble staying healthy. And, we saw this, and the best example of it is Peter Forsberg. Peter Forsberg played too rough for his own good. Yeah. And they warned him early in his career, you're a star player. You can't play that hard. And he said, it's the only way I know how to play. And he was always breaking down later in his career because of how hard he played. And the same is true of Arvidsson. And if you look at, he's had trouble staying healthy. He's a smaller guy. He plays at 100 miles an hour. And because of that, his production has slipped a little bit. And to be honest, I've been told that he wasn't particularly happy anymore in Nashville, that he didn't think that, they viewed him the same way, and for whatever reason. So he was ready to move. And the reason the deal got done with L.A., and this is not inside information, David Poile said it publicly, is L.A. was the only team that didn't want to spend salary back. And Poile was looking to do that. So they were happy with the return of a second-round pick and a third-round pick. From the Kings' perspective, I really like this trade. If Arvidsson can, what the Kings are trying to do, and I'm writing about both the Predator situation and the Kings situation along with other teams in a column that's coming out later today on Hockey Buzz. What the Kings want to do is, and Russ can testify more to this than I can, they have a slew, and I do mean a slew, of good young players.
Yes.
They want to bring in some veteran players to in that mix, and they thought Arvidsson is a good fit for that. He plays hard, he sets a nice tempo, and he's got a scoring touch, around the net if he can stay healthy. So I think both sides achieved their objective on this, and if you would traded Arvidsson 2 or 3 years ago, you'd have got more. But right now, I think that's what you get for him.
Well, Russ, the interesting thing I heard was now Ekholm's name was out there at the trade deadline. They pulled back on that, and now there's been speculation that him and the Predators are working on a long-term deal, and that would be able to be signed after July 28th. Elliot Friedman was on Toronto radio this morning and mentioned that the money that was vacated by trading the final 3 years of Arvidsson's deal may go in part to Michael Granlund, who's a UFA, who had a really good year for them, helped them down the stretch, and is interested in staying in Nashville. So that might be.
Yeah, he redeemed himself.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, and the thing about that's kind of lost is, he didn't work well for Peter Laviolette, and Hines loves him.
Right.
So
that made a difference for him too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are going to re-sign him, by the way, and he's going to come in in the $5 million range.
Okay. I think David Poile did get the edge here, because even if Arvidsson's healthy, I don't think he's the scorer that he once was, but he's still a good player. Where I think there's a couple of fails here. The biggest fail is the Los Angeles Times, who didn't even post this trade. If you look online, and one of our current reporters and friends of the show is the one who told me that, but I'm not going to use the name. And basically, you go there, you go to Seattle Times, you go to Tennessee, and you go all these places. You could read about the trade, but you can't actually read about it for the Los Angeles Times where it actually happened, which shows that they've been de-emphasizing hockey, and I just wanted to hopefully embarrass them, because I really think that's terrible. Anyhow, as far as what LA accomplished, they partially accomplished what they wanted to, because their attendance has been sagging, and they have been trying to talk about bringing in some players that would excite the fan base. Now, Arvidsson may do that with his actual play, but nobody's going to buy tickets for Arvidsson coming in on this deal, and they actually need to bring in somebody for that now, because right now they're at that weird spot where they're rebuilding. They've got good young names, but they don't have anything for fans to sort of hold on to just yet. And that's where I think Rob Blake should pay more attention to. Connor Garland's a bigger name than Victor Arvidsson right now. If you brought in Connor Garland in a trade, people would be like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's on his way up. Well, he could be our best player."
I don't think that would be enough in LA.
No, probably not. But I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we remember that we heard right after the season that LA was going to go big for 2 top 6 forwards. Now, if you categorize Arvidsson as one of those, and I think I would.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
for them, they could be in on Eichel. They could be in on. Now, I and I'm going to use this to segue to a piece that Aaron Portzline and Corey Pronman wrote for The Athletic. The Kings were one of 3 teams they sort of looked at as the main competitors for Seth Jones. And Russ, they basically put together potential trade packages for each of the teams. And for the Kings, they had Adrian Kempe, Akil Thomas,
right,
Tobias Bjornfoot, and a first-round pick.
That's pretty good, but really, you're not getting any of their 2 or 3 best offensive players, and you're getting their best defensive prospect, but you're not getting a top offensive prospect.
Yeah,
and that's
no Turcotte, no Velarde.
Right. You're not even getting Velarde out of this, which to me is a fail.
Yeah, Kevin,
you can't do it based on that.
Kevin, I agree. That package. I mean, Kempe's been in the league 3 years.
He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. But.
Yeah, I don't think it's anywhere close to being enough for a Seth Jones.
Yeah, I mean, the problem they have is are you only getting him as a 1-year rental?
Right.
That's the issue, and I'm sure that's what's being discussed, and that's why I'm sure the writers went lower because of that. It's just really hard to know. just to backtrack a little bit, because I want to throw this into the mix. I in my column today, I'm speculating slash. I believe that's the way they're leaning. That because Ekholm is being going to be re-signed, they're going to try to trade Ryan Ellis.
Yeah.
And my argument in my column is Columbus can come out ahead on this if they can get Ryan Ellis for a reasonable price, which I think they can, and then trade Seth Jones for far more assets than they're giving up for Ellis. And they would then have Ellis locked up
at
6.25, which is reasonable for a guy. And from Nashville's perspective, why we're going to see Ekholm is instead of Ryan Ellis. And who knows? Maybe they'll try to keep them both. They're certainly going to do that for the expansion draft. Is size. Ryan Ellis and Carrier and Fabro are all smallish defensemen, 6 foot and under. Mm-hmm. They just don't feel you can have 3 of those.
Okay, I mean, I get that. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a fair assessment. The only thing I would say is if Jarmo could pull that off, that would be a big deal for him. And Kev, I did say yesterday, my feeling is now that Seth Jones probably isn't giving clubs the feeling that he'll re-sign with any of them. And
nope.
I think that's what has now slowed down the whole process, because to me, if it's gone this long, he's going to test the waters after this rental.
Now, Ross, let me just finish off this Seth Jones article here and just give you the potential packages that they have for Colorado. They have Tyson Yost, Sampo Ranta, Justin Barron, and a 2021 number 1.
They're not giving. Why would they give him for a rental? They're not giving up that much.
Well, I mean, maybe they think Colorado can re-sign him. Maybe that's.
I'm sure they do. Now Ranta is a scorer, but he's a one-dimensional scorer. But he already played a couple shifts, so he's a guy that will get a chance because he's big and fast. He needs to have one better than one move that he has. But if he can do that, he is a guy that might be able to put in a few goals, 15 goals. That's maybe at his height.
And the one
Barron's good, but Barron is a offensive zone entry disaster.
Yeah,
you don't know what's going to happen. He's fast. He has all the skill in the world, but you just don't know what he's going to do with the puck. So.
And the one that would intrigue Anthony, if you were on the show with the Flyers, Philippe Myers, Zayd Wisdom, Morgan Frost, and a 2022 number 1.
Yeah, I will tell you that I believe the Myers part is right, because I told you that if it included Sanheim, then all of a sudden Jarmo's got to sign Sanheim, right? So he's not going to want to have to do that even on an RFA basis, because then it's kind of like Line. He's going to lose him in a couple of years. So I actually think that is a reasonable package. I think they're going to, that's trading Zayd Wisdom high because he had a really good year in the AHL, but I think I would still send Zayd Wisdom back to the OHL next year, just because the AHL had horrible goaltending, and I think he got a bunch of goals there, but he is a good player, a good young and up-and-coming player. So I do think that Flyers deal is possible. Would I do that if I were the Flyers for a rental? No way in hell.
Yeah, and I think they included Chicago, and they had guys like Kurashev and a number 1, and I can't remember the other prospect, but it was somebody. Lucas Reichel, Kurashev, and a number 1.
There's no way that. See, again, if Chicago does that as a rental, and they don't re-sign him, right, and they don't win the Stanley Cup, that cripples them now for the next 3 years, because you've traded some of your best prospects. Kurashev getting up the charts there. That was a really smart pick. You lose him, and Reichel is up and coming, and he's one of your higher ranked forwards right now in the prospect system, if not your highest ranked.
Mm-hmm.
And, because the other guys are up already, and you're going to trade them for a rental. Like that, to me, that's just dumb. I mean, that's where you have to be careful here. if you're a team that sees, if you have a guy like, I don't know, let's say it's Colorado, right? And you put Nazem Kadri in the deal, and the reason you put in Kadri in the deal is because you feel like, hey, we can play without him because we have younger players that can do that. I get that. And then it makes sense to overpay a little bit. If you're overpaying with the prospects and picks for a rental, that's bad territory for me.
Yeah, and if Kadri was part of a deal for Seth Jones and he goes to Columbus, he's got a year left in his contract. They could flip him at the deadline and get assets for him, so that would make sense. Kev, we talked about the Duncan Keith stuff that popped up on Wednesday. There was a report in the Edmonton Journal this morning that indicates that the Oilers are the favorite in the Duncan Keith sweepstakes, if there is a sweepstakes. I mean, I think that the only other one is probably Seattle. But it sounds as if Keith would be the sort of stopgap solution to replace Oscar Klefbom on the blue line. And they like I said yesterday, there's some speculation Oscar Klefbom may never play again. So Keith, with 2 years left on his contract at $5.5 million. Now that's not a terrible cap hit, but he is getting a little long in the tooth. What do you think of that theory that he might be going to Edmonton?
Well, I think that's a good fit. I do, and just for the reasons you just articulated, primarily is that he's an older player. You're not looking at him as a long-term solution to the Oilers' defensive problems. But I watched the Blackhawks a lot last year because I was very fascinated by how hard Patrick Kane was playing last year. I mean, he plays hard every year, but it was amazing when Taves gone how hard he worked at it. And I thought Duncan Keith played better than he did the previous year. And I think he's still got some hockey in him. So, I like it. I like it from the Oilers' perspective. It makes a lot of sense for the Blackhawks. They need to move him out. They need to get more cap flexibility. They're looking to try to change up their team as well. And, so this is a classic case. When the salary cap was introduced, there was a lot of talk about that cap space was an asset and needed to be viewed as such. We don't always do that, but that's certainly the case for the Blackhawks in this deal. I mean, they're looking for what we can open up for us through this deal, and that's far more important than anything else.
We can't. Don't the Oilers need goaltending and scoring more than they need another defenseman?
I think they need everything, but I do think that defense has been their problem for a long time. And, I don't know. Are they getting Adam Larson back? Because they sure better.
Well, that is the talk that Larson it's sort of like they're working on his deal similar to Nugent Hopkins, trading term for AAV. And if that's the case, then he's back. And then they have, Darnell Nurse had a fantastic year. Ethan Bear is a good young defenseman.
Who's starting in net for them next year?
Well, supposedly, Russ, they're going to re-sign Mike Smith.
See, this is, again, I couldn't tell you that all that is just like saying, you know what, we rolled the dice with Mike Smith last year. We made the playoffs. It didn't work out. So we're going to do the same thing again and hope it works out. And hope isn't the plan.
Well, yeah, like I thought Mike Smith played fine, but I still thought they've got to get a goalie under 39 years old.
Yeah.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on it. Even if he plays well,
Right.
they got to get somebody in there. To me, they should have been the team on the phone with the Columbus Blue Jackets as soon as the season was over, and make a trade for one of their two goalies.
Yes.
And to me, there's only one guy there. I just think that Merzlikins has a much bigger upside.
That's fair. I agree.
So I would be going for him because I think there's a chance still that he could be an exceptional goalie. Mm-hmm. I think he's pretty good right now, but I think once he gets it sorted out and he's been in the league a few years, I think he could end up being one of those guys that you just really, really count on. So
when it comes to the Oilers and their goaltending situation, I wonder out loud whether they will buy out Mikko Koskinen out of the final year of his contract. He's $4.5 million. If you buy him out, it's 1.5 against the cap for the next 2 years. You save yourself $3 million, and you can use a lot of that or all of that to go out and get yourself a good goaltender. But if your goaltending next year is going to be Mike Smith and Alex Stalock, then the same thing that happened this year is probably going to happen next year.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, you should go out and get somebody like Bernier or,
Sure.
I mean, but
I would even take Devin Dubnyk over Mike Smith at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Although I don't think Devin Dubnyk is going to go back there.
No, I don't.
No, he probably won't. But I'm just saying of that ilk. That's true. You're right about that. Hey, I've got a quick story here, Mike. Something that's being written about in Philly, which I think is sort of like, I'm going to just say what it is. It's lazy journalism. And so because Dave Haxtell is a coach now for the Seattle Kraken, everybody's writing an article like, hey, maybe he'll want JVR, or hey, maybe he'll want Voracek, or hey, maybe he'll want Shane Gostisbehere. And I just retweeted to someone and said, maybe he'll take Robert Hagg, because Robert Hagg is the perfect kind of guy for a franchise like that who doesn't make a lot of money. Why in the world are they going to take Shane Gostisbehere at that money? They're not going to do it. And this is just because Dave Haxtell coached those guys, Ron Francis isn't going to say, Dave, I'll get you that guy because you want him. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's 2 more years for Gostisbehere at $4.5 million, and Hagg is 1.16 for next year before he's a UFA. And if he has a good year with a lot of ice time,
you sign him.
Then either re-sign him or he's a hell of an ad at the deadline because he's only making 1.6.
Yep.
And this is the thing, Kev. Everybody was talking about Van Riemsdyk and Haxtell in Seattle, and he played a grand total of 25 games for Haxtell before Haxtell got fired.
Right.
So there's a real connection there,
Yeah, it's the same thing in Detroit here. There's been a lot of connecting the dots of Alec Martinez and the Red Wings. He was originally born in Michigan, but he didn't. His youth hockey was in California. He did come back and play. He does know Blashill, having played at the World Championships and recruited him to Miami and so forth. But if Vegas offers him a third year, he's not coming to Detroit.
No.
So he's going to stay with the team that has a real good shot, and he'll be 3 years with a contender if he stays with Vegas. If he comes to Detroit, he'll still be on a rebuilding team. So
yeah, I heard something about him going back to Los Angeles because their defense really is weak, other than Doughty. It's like, but I think they're further along their rebuild than Detroit. But why would he go back to the team that traded him unless he still has property there and he likes LA, and he won 2 Stanley Cups there. So, but
yeah, but You are selling sunshine a little bit with the Kings. Sure. I think a lot of players like the idea of just going to a warm climate, and there's kind of a romance with the idea of, hey, I'll play a couple or 3 years for the Kings.
Yeah. So. There was a report yesterday after the presser for the announcement of Don Granato removing the interim tag. To be the Sabres head coach. The press conference included Kevin Adams, and it immediately diverted after 2 or 3 questions about Granato staying in town to what's up with Jack Eichel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kevin Adams was deft, shall I say, in terms of avoiding really any kind of specific information, other than he had spoken to Peter Fish, who is the agent for Jack Eichel, and later it came out in a report from the AP that the Sabres and Eichel are drawing closer to an agreement on how to proceed with the next situation. And Kevin, the thing is, I almost get the feeling the agreement is he's going to be traded, and not that they've agreed on how to go forward, but that they're going to pass this off on the other team who they trade him to.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure the Sabres are thinking, well, let the next team work that out with them.
Right.
So yeah. I looked at that. I don't know enough about it to draw any opinion on it, but it does seem curious to me that Eichel favors the artificial disc replacement, and it's never been done. Did I understand that correctly on a player before?
It's
on
never
an NHL player. It was done on someone who's an MMA fighter.
right.
Yeah, and it worked out fine for him.
And for him, it's working out fine so far.
Yeah, well, the modern medical miracles that we see every day. So, but how long are you out for when you have that surgery?
They said the recovery would be relatively quick, but they didn't specify how long. But I mean, okay, we're talking right now. We're talking early July. This training camp starts mid-September, and the season starts mid-October. I would seriously doubt if he has the surgery tomorrow that he'd be ready for training camp.
No.
So I mean,
yeah, it's a difficult situation for all involved. But I look around the league and I still see the Ducks as being a prime contender for them. Certainly Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota can throw Dumba into the deal, and that would give the Sabres a defenseman for at least 3 years.
Right.
So I guess they're a possibility, but. If they want that early draft pick, it's really got to be Anaheim. But I just don't see them giving up Drysdale or Zegras.
No. And somebody in the chat is saying that it was reported on Buffalo Radio that the Sabres are looking for something equal to 4 first-round picks. They're not getting that.
But I'm telling you,
Larry Brooks reported that, and that's what he reported was the equivalent of 4 first-round picks. So in other words, I read about this with regard to Detroit. Like Detroit, you could sort of make a case that even though Tyler Bertuzzi wasn't a first rounder, he is the equivalent of a first round.
Right.
Pick. So
I'll tell you what I was told though, Kev, when I was in Tampa. Word on the street is they may have to accept all futures for Jack Eichel based on the.
What I've heard,
because of the operation and everything else.
What I've heard is everybody who's made an offer has asked Buffalo to take a contract back. So that would be the exact opposite of what you heard. So
they would have to, because say for example, just use Vegas as the example, because Vegas has been the destination du jour on Jack Eichel.
Yeah,
I cannot imagine a deal involving Eichel going to Vegas that would not include Marc-Andre Fleury, because that's $7 million of the $10 million. I guess now that doesn't mean that Fleury is going to play in Buffalo. That probably means Buffalo would have to flip him someplace else,
right?
Maybe retain 50% of the salary to make that happen, which they can do because they have $30 million they're under the cap. So
here's the issue. And Johnny Red put it in our chat room. His insurance won't pay for the disc replacement, and even though that's what he wants, and the doctor says it's better, why won't the insurance company pay for it? Because it's unproven.
Right, and
that's the problem.
And what happens here? This is a Nathan Horton situation. Remember, the whole reason that the Nathan Horton for David Clarkson deal happened between Toronto and Columbus is because Horton's back situation was not covered under insurance. The Leafs could eat that money. Columbus couldn't, because they were going to have to pay out the entire salary because it wasn't covered under insurance. If Eichel has that surgery, is he going to be covered under insurance by that new team? Is that team going to, if they're not going to get reimbursed 80% of his salary?
No, it definitely won't be 80%. It'll be the cost of that would probably be astronomical to do that.
Right. So, I mean, all this is our factors. So,
yeah, I will say this: the reason where I think the all futures things make sense, because there are teams that are rebuilding that have 2 and 3 first rounders this year, and it is possible they could get 3 first rounders for Eichel, like 2 this year and 1 next year, and they may have to accept that because of the risk of this deal and the cost of the other team taking a $10 million guy.
Now, Kevin, if this was Snapchat or TikTok, I would put on Karnak, the turban on your head, because David Pagnotta tweeted this morning regarding Phil Kessel that Phil Kessel's cap hit is $6.8 million. He's up for grabs, and says the Coyotes may eat 50% of the cap hit to facilitate a trade. Teams are curious. Gee, where have we heard that before?
Yeah, no, for sure. And of course they will, because, the money that he's going to be paid will all have been paid. You're only going to have to pay like $1 million for the salary. So in the cap hit, the Coyotes are not going to the cap ceiling. So that's no problem for them to take half of his cap hit. And now he's
that's a good question, though, Kev, because we couldn't answer it yesterday. Where are the Coyotes going as an organization?
No idea. And I think that's the issue. I don't know where they're going. But, if you hear all the rumors about who they're potentially trading, you wonder, it doesn't seem like they're trying to build. Like, what are they? So,
well, I mean, okay, they're trading Kessel. That's $6.8 million. They may retain salary to get to the cap, to get to the cap floor. OEL is in the hopper right now. And there's a lot of speculation about Connor Garland, who only made $775,000, but is in line for a big raise. And I'm sure they will try to recoup a lot of the draft picks that they were penalized by the league or that they included in the Taylor Hall deal. So there's 3 of your better players that are on the block.
Well, they're only 20-goal scorer.
Yeah.
Phil Kessel. Their leading offensive guy, in my opinion. I mean, not in terms of points, but in terms of the danger and so forth. I mean, he's a guy that you got to be aware of out there. And I think, but he's the guy that will be the indication of what they're doing. Like, if they trade him, that to me sends a message as, we're right now, we're just trying to tread water.
Right.
Because, you're not trying to win if you trade Connor Garland. You have him right now at $700,000. He's been a bargain. And now, your goal should be to get him locked up into a reasonable long-term contract. And
Pagnotta apparently reported that Darcy Kemper is also on the block. So there's another $4.5 million. And Russ, if you trade Ekman Larsson, then from your top 6 last year, the only defenseman you have left is Chychrun.
Yeah,
I mean, that probably means Victor. Right. Victor Soderstrom is in your top.
Which is fine. I think Soderstrom has a chance to be a big time defenseman. Will it take a little time? Yeah.
But you only need 4 more defensemen to fill up your lineup in the NHL with. That's easy, isn't it?
Listen, they are a team that doesn't have a direction. They have an ownership that doesn't really understand hockey. Mm-hmm. Ownership group, and you can see it. That's it.
Now, one other thing that Pagnotta reported that I thought was interesting, and we talked about the deal last year that forced Nate Schmidt to be traded from Vegas to Vancouver, and thought it was a coup for Vancouver because they had lost some defensemen in free agency, and Vegas, I think, needed a mobile defenseman like Nate Schmidt, especially in the playoffs this year. And now he's reporting that Schmidt may be looking to get out of Vancouver, and he's being shopped. He's got 4 years left at $5.9 million. I don't know.
Nobody's taking that.
Well, nobody's taking that unless they take salary back.
Right.
So
Vancouver's not the take salary back kind of franchise. They're not.
Yeah. That is true. Russ, you wrote about Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow for Sportsology a couple days ago.
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Stephen Wino wrote about them today.
Today, I wrote one day ahead of Steve Wino, which is good because for the last 2 days at the Stanley Cup, I didn't even get close to winning the pool. So he's the one who does the pool. He hands out the names. I didn't win, so at least I scooped him. I feel good, but I like Steve. Steve and I.
Well, I have the worst luck, as everybody knows, I covered a lot of NHL playoff games and 35 finals. I paid into a lot of pools, and I won once in 35 years.
How much did you win? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was like $400, something.
So you're down $300. You probably put in $700.
So, I probably put in more than 10. So, because you got to, there's 7 games. So,
right.
And we just didn't do them in the final. Some years we did them in the conference final.
Right.
Yeah, I could have probably bought a third home if
was it just for overtimes or was it for game-winning goals?
Game-winning goals, yeah.
Okay. No, the reason I brought this up, Russ, is because Elliot Friedman said on the 31 Thoughts podcast yesterday that, because your assumption or your thesis of your piece was that Tampa needs to re-sign Coleman and Gaudreau, and obviously that I'm sure it would be pricey, but that it would maybe be within the realm of possibility if they get rid of Tyler Johnson in expansion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Friedman said that the way Gaudreau and Coleman are playing in the playoffs, that their price will potentially skyrocket, and he thinks there's almost no chance that they'll stay in Tampa because there'll be a lot of interested teams. I
mean, again, Gaudreau skyrocketing from 900,000. What could it possibly skyrocket to? Like, let's be real. Again,
$2.5 million.
$2.5 million is
no, he'll get more than that.
Okay.
Well, if he gets 3. Okay,
he'll get 3.5. Don't you think?
I don't know, because I don't think Coleman's getting 5. Nobody's paying Coleman 5.
I don't think so. Coleman won't get 5,
and so I do think you could keep them both, because I do think if Hedman gets either this ACL or labrum surgery that we're hearing about, and Tyler Johnson goes to Seattle. Yeah, I know they're still over the cap right now, but they could resolve that before next season starts somehow, and at least gives them. It does at least give them the spending money to be able to keep those 2, and I would do it. And I think they can do it because that's 2/3 of a line that is helping them win Stanley Cups. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It's a long shot.
I just don't. Yeah, I'm with Elliot on this, Russ. I think he being Brisebois, Julian Brisebois. I think he's out of aces up his sleeves. And, he's tried everything and it's really worked out. But he needs really 2 players and then not be able to just to get normal where he doesn't sign any free agents. So for him to go after Gaudreau and Coleman, he would actually, I think, have to get rid of 3 to 4 players. So you're talking like Palat.
One temporarily. Hedman is temporarily, right? He'll be coming back. You do get rid of Johnson, and you know what? Maybe that's.
Yeah, but they're talking about that. They're still going to have the problem when he comes back. Unless somebody else is hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just don't. I think
but they've been good at it.
Yeah, they've been really good at it. I mean, he's been clever, but there aren't a lot of those opportunities out there. Plus, I think everybody's kind of mad at him for the whole. Kucherov, which was it was within the rules, but I think no one's going to be helping him out.
I mean, it doesn't mean Francis wouldn't, but most teams might not. But everybody used to get mad at Ed DeBarlo Jr., and yet he used to do it every year in the NFL.
I think that I think them getting mad at Brisebois is ridiculous because he's playing within the rules of the game. If you want to win, do the same damn thing.
You think it's hot at a baseball game, and it's ridiculous. So why
it was hot.
I've retold that story. Someone asked me that day, "What did you guys talk about?" And I said, "Believe it or not, that one of our guys was upset because it was hot at a baseball game." The guy just roared. I said, yeah, it was that absurd. Yeah, it was.
Just quickly here. So Game 3 at the Bell Center tonight. Dom Ducharme behind the Canadiens bench. The Canadiens are making no lineup changes, Russ. So no Romanoff, no Tatar. Everything the same.
Sure, just full steam ahead like the Titanic. That's perfect.
What? I know this is just going to sound ridiculous, but this is how I feel about this series so far, and I think it's really true of every final. You know what's going to go on tonight? What's going to go on is that for a while, one of the teams is going to play well, and then for a while, the other team's going to play well, and we're going to say, well, Montreal's sticking with them. And then at the end of the game, because the Tampa Bay Lightning know so much about how to survive and to win, they'll win. Like both the games have been like that. I mean,
that's true. I can see Montreal possibly winning this game, Kev, but again, it's like they're going full steam ahead with what isn't working.
So, well, yeah.
Tampa's going with the same lineup, no Alex Killorn, so it should be entertaining. And just have to point this out: the Quebec government turned down the Canadiens, 3,500 fans inside the Bell Center and 35,000 outside of the Bell Center. So that won't be a super spreader event, will it?
It just makes no sense. It really doesn't make sense.
All right, guys, great show. We'll be back on Monday. Hope everybody in the U.S. has a happy 4th. For Kevin Allen, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.